Have you ever wondered what a man is willing to sacrifice for family, what courage looks like when all the odds stand against him? This is not just another tale of the Wild West, this is the story of a young cowboy who risked everything to save the only family he had left. It was the year 1867. The American frontier stretched wide and wild, dusty plains, rugged canyons, and small wooden towns that stood like lonely outposts in a land where law and order were often just words written in the dust. In this unforgiving land lived Ethan Carter, a young cowboy of 21. Ethan wasn't the strongest, nor the richest, but he had something far more powerful, a heart full of determination and a love for his younger sister, Clara. Since their parents had died of illness when Ethan was just 16, Clara was all he had. She was 14 now, bright-eyed, full of life, and often reminded him of the mother they had lost. They worked side by side on a small ranch their father had left behind, barely surviving the harsh realities of the frontier. To Ethan, every blister, every long day in the saddle, every meal skipped, it was all worth it if Clara could smile, if she could have a future. But one fateful evening changed everything. As the sun dipped behind the canyons, painting the sky in shades of crimson, a band of ruthless outlaws rode into town. They were led by Silas Granger, a notorious gunslinger whose name carried fear across counties. The gang stormed through like a pack of wolves, robbing the saloon, burning wagons, and dragging away anyone they could use as leverage. And in the chaos, Clara was taken. Ethan had been out mending fences when he heard the screams and saw the smoke. By the time he rode back, the town was in ruins, and Clara was gone. A local farmer, his face pale with fear, told Ethan he saw the gang ride north toward the Black Rock Canyons. An outlaw hideout where lawmen rarely dared to follow. Ethan's hands trembled as he gripped the farmer's arm. "Did you see my sister? Did they have her?" The man nodded solemnly. "They did, son. I'm sorry." For a long moment, Ethan's world spun. Fear clawed at his chest. Clara was just a child. In the hands of men like Silas, her fate was unthinkable. But then, something inside him hardened. He could not, would not, let this happen. That night, under the pale light of the moon, Ethan saddled his horse, strapped on his father's old revolver, and whispered a prayer. He was no gunslinger, no seasoned lawman, just a young cowboy with a trembling hand and a fire in his soul. But he knew one thing, he would ride into hell itself to bring Clara home. The journey was brutal. The canyons were treacherous, filled with rattlesnakes, sharp rocks, and shadows that seemed alive with danger. Ethan had no guide, no backup, just the desperate pounding of his heart and the faint hope that his sister was still alive. More than once, doubt gnawed at him. What if he wasn't strong enough? What if Clara was already gone? But every time despair whispered in his ear, Ethan remembered Clara's laughter, her faith in him, the way she had once told him, "You're my hero, Ethan. You'll always keep me safe." Those words became his anchor. On the third day, after tracking broken branches and faint hoofprints, Ethan found the outlaws camped deep within Black Rock Canyon. From behind a ridge, he saw them, rough men drinking, laughing cruelly, and near the fire, Clara, tied and guarded. Her face was dirty, her eyes filled with tears, but she was alive. Ethan's throat tightened. He had found her. But finding her was only the beginning. He had no army, no plan but courage. He counted 7 men, all armed, all dangerous. To charge and blindly would be suicide. So, Ethan waited. He studied their patterns, their carelessness as they drank more whiskey. When the moon climbed high, and the camp quieted, Ethan crept down like a shadow. Every step was a prayer. Every rustle of leaves felt like thunder in his ears. He slipped behind Clara, pressed a finger to his lips, and cut her ropes with his knife. Tears welled in her eyes as she clutched him, but he whispered, "Not yet. Quiet." They tried to slip away, but fate was never that kind. A twig snapped under Clara's foot, and one of the outlaws stirred. His eyes went wide when he saw them. "Boss!" "The girl!" Chaos exploded. Bullets tore through the night. Ethan shoved Clara behind a rock, pulling his revolver with shaking hands. He had never killed a man before, but in that moment, survival and love left him no choice. The fight was furious. Ethan's heart hammered as he fired, barely remembering how his father had taught him years ago. He grazed one outlaw, dropped another, and ducked as shots sparked off the rocks. His arm burned from a bullet's graze, but he kept fighting. For Clara. For their future. Finally, it was just him and Silas Granger. The outlaw leader sneered, stepping forward, his gun steady, his eyes cold. "You're just a boy," Silas spat. "Think you can take me?" Ethan's chest heaved, fear pounding in his veins. But then, he thought of Clara, watching from behind him. He thought of his father, of his mother, of everything they had lost, and everything he refused to lose now. "I don't have to be the best," Ethan said, voice steady. "I just have to be willing to die for her. That's more than you'll ever understand." The duel was over in seconds. Silas fired, but Ethan was faster. The outlaw fell, eyes wide in disbelief, as dust rose around him. For a long moment, silence filled the canyon. Then Clara ran into Ethan's arms, sobbing, "I knew you'd come. I knew you'd save me." Ethan held her close, tears burning his eyes. His body ached, his wounds throbbed, but none of it mattered. He had done the impossible. Not because he was the strongest, but because he refused to give up. When they finally rode back to town, the people looked at Ethan differently. Not as just a young cowboy, but as a man who had defied outlaws, death, and fear itself. Yet, Ethan didn't care about glory. All that mattered was the sister in his arms, safe and alive. And so, their story became more than just a tale of survival. It became a lesson, that true courage is not the absence of fear, but the will to act in spite of it. That love can turn an ordinary person into a hero. And that sometimes, the greatest battles are not fought with guns, but with the strength of the human heart. So if you ever find yourself standing at the edge of despair, when the odds feel impossible and the world seems too cruel, remember Ethan Carter. Remember the cowboy who risked everything for love. And remember that inside each of us is the same fire, the same courage, waiting to rise when life demands it. Because in the heart of the wild frontier, or in the struggles of your own life, the message is the same. Family, courage, and love are worth everything. And no outlaw, no fear, no challenge, can stand against them.